panel of cartoon creatives, women power in animation. My name is Leslie Combemale. I write for Animation Scoop and CinemaSiren.com, and I've owned an animation art gallery for 24 years. And I'm incredibly honored and proud to present this amazing group of women changing and expanding the world of animation that are sitting in front of you here. I am not going to introduce them individually because, as you see, we have a lot of women on the panel, so I'm going to go through with each one of them and talk to them individually, and so we'll get started now. And we're starting with Marge Dean, who's the co-president of Women in Animation, and she's going to do a little presentation.
Hello, thanks for coming. We're very excited about the opportunity to talk to you all at Comic-Con. It's been a dream of our organization to have a presence here, so I really appreciate Leslie organizing the panel and getting all these amazing women together to talk with you. I am going to do a sort of little set the tone, give you an idea of the situation for women in animation.
Yo, Peppa.
What?
Lights down, please. Yeah, she's doing a presentation now. Thank you.
So when we started talking about this issue, we did a little bit of research, and we realized and found that women actually love animation. And starting in around 2010, more and more women started to go to animation schools and study animation and want to be in animation and loved drawing, loved art. And at this point, it varies from school to school, but somewhere between 60 and 70% of animation programs across the country. And actually, we've also looked at these statistics around the world, and they're very similar. But the interesting thing is when it comes to the workforce, they only make up 20% of the creative roles. And this was pretty startling, that there's some sort of disconnect that happens there, that women who are studying animation seem to want to be in animation end up not being able to get the jobs or not going for the jobs. There's a lot of people who are thinking, well, if women make up this large percentage of people in animation programs, they will naturally evolve into taking on, like that number, 20% will grow larger just by nature. But it's been going on since 2006 to 2015. The growth of women in creative roles has only increased by about 4%. So it's not something that's going to happen just on its own. It's something that we have to be deliberate about, we have to be strategic about, and we have to continue to encourage everyone to look at the situation. So that's why we started, that's the focus of Women in Animation. Women in Animation actually began in 1994, so it's been around for 20 years. We relaunched it about 3 years ago with this call to action. Anyway, why does it matter? I think the answer is obvious, but I think sometimes people often ask this question and wonder, why does it matter? Why do we need women in the creative leadership roles? And the main reason is that women are probably the most underused resource around. There is so much talent out there in women that for a million different reasons don't get expressed, don't get seen, don't get utilized. And we believe that women will bring something different to animation, and which will then change our media, will change it for the better. So we think having more women involved in creative endeavors, probably in all endeavors, but we're just talking about animation right now, will actually make animation better. So we have a call to action. We have set a goal for ourselves and for the industry to get 50%, 50-50 by 2025. This means we want to see in the creative leadership roles, or in the creative roles across the board, we want to see it be 50% females. So how will that change? again, this is the core of our organization. And I think as we listen to these women talk about their careers and the work, you'll see that many of them have either implemented or experienced some of the things that we've isolated as a way to make a change. The first thing, and first and foremost, is leadership development. We are creating many programs to train women and encourage women to step into leadership roles and, just take it on and be bold. Some of that we've done with a mentor program. We're in our third years of setting up pairs of mentors and mentees. We're about to launch the third year, which if you're interested, applications will become available at the beginning of August. And what we do in the Los Angeles area is pair more senior women with the up-and-coming women in order to train them and help them and support them in their career growth. We also have regular educational programs where we talk about things like screenwriting, voice acting, legal issues, how do you be a showrunner, a wide variety of things. We have composers and editors are starting to form groups and to do panels to talk about the work that they do. Legacy is a huge area and a really interesting and fascinating, oops, sorry, how'd that happen? Because it seems like women seem to have a cloak of invisibility. There are many women who have played major roles in animation, in the history of animation, and yet they've fallen off the history pages. There are women today who are doing great things that people are not knowing about, not finding out about, and so we consider it a really core endeavor for us to start acknowledging and recognizing women, as well as just implementing, getting them permanently put into the history of animation. We have an archive at UCLA in the special collections that is starting to collect, that has been collecting papers and videotapes and photos and art as a record. I consider a panel like this is something that is very much in line with legacy. It's like being able to get these women who are pioneers in front of you to talk about what they've done and the accomplishments that they've had and the challenges that they've faced is critical for this conversation to be going on and on. Research, the statistics, you can't fight the statistics. That when we first started talking about women in animation in the relaunch, a lot of people were saying, but there's lots of women in animation. We see women all the time in animation. And it wasn't until we did the research and started going, yes, there are a lot of women in animation, but where most of them are is in production management. And we think it's critical that they be in the position of creative leadership, because that's where the voices come out. That's where you're going to hear a perspective that is missing right now. So we feel that doing research to be able to substantiate our case, but also, and we have just kicked off a research project with USC, CalArts, and Ithaca that is looking into what happens to students when they graduate. So they're doing a current study of looking at the students coming out now for the next 5 years, but also going back 5 years to see where did those women go. If they didn't go after the jobs or didn't get the jobs, where did they go and what was their experience coming out of school? So we want to know what the real reasons are so that we know how to build programs to support women going forward into moving into these positions. Related to that is we have a very special student program because students' needs are very different than professional women. And again, we're trying to get that 50-50. We need to encourage the young women who are coming up, who are now 70% of the student body, to help them navigate through into professional roles. We have a scholarship that we offer as well. Once a year we give out a little bit of money to a talented student to help her finish her project. The thing that's kind of cool about this is the woman on the left is Ruthie Thompson, who used to work at Disney back in the day. She started out as an ink and painter and became what is now we call a scene planner, but this was pre-digital days. And she is now, I think, 108. Yeah. So we had this great moment of having Ruthie award the scholarship to the student who had won it. That's legacy. And a new program that we're introducing this year is going to be a shorts program. We've been putting together a distribution plan that, working with Vimeo, we're getting very close to closing that deal, but we want to be able to offer small amounts of money to help 5 to 10 women produce their own film. But one thing that's a little bit different than a lot of just straight shorts programs is the distribution piece. We've also got several YouTube superstars involved in endorsing the program. So all of this will help with not only getting the films made, but getting them out there and getting them seen. So keep an eye out for an announcement this fall for submissions. So a very smart guy said, if a woman can do the work as well, she is worth as much as a man. The girl artists have the right to expect the same chances for advancement as men. And I honestly believe they may eventually contribute something to this business that men never would or could. And that last sentence, again, is the core of what Women in Animation is all about.
All right.
I'm not done.
Oh, okay.
Done. Sorry, I'm almost
She's
done.
almost done.
But I have this
Please, the
very
lights,
short
please.
clip, it's 1 minute long.
There's a decline in the number of women that are actually working in the business.
Women should be in animation. They bring a special sensibility.
Their voice, their perspective.
The different sense of creativity.
Bold, expressive, dynamic. I want more.
Because women hold up half the sky.
It's our job to try to get that balance happening, and you know what? The films will be better for it.
Come on, let's get more women in the ranks of animation, for God's sake.
50-50 by 2025 is doable.
Well, I pledge 50-50 by 2025. 50-50.
By 2025.
That would make Sadness very happy.
Okay, lights, please. Thank you. Thanks, Marge. Next, we have Daron Nefcy, and she's the creator and executive producer of Star versus the Forces of Evil. So I'd love for you to talk about your storyboard artists, the women, and how much they influence, and just kind of talk a little bit about them for me.
Yeah, the way we do Star is we're a board-driven show, so our storyboard artists are actually our writers. We have 12 board artists, and currently 9 of the 12 are women who are writing the episodes and have been working on the second season and now the third season. And yeah, it's just, we have a fantastic team all around. I mean, everybody's been really great. But yeah, it's fun. I mean, I think it's fun seeing my crew in particular, because I just feel like, I feel really good about all the ladies on the crew. So.
And you just had another season start, yeah?
Yeah. Our second episode just aired, and our third episode of the second season is going to air this coming Monday. And
so if you don't watch it yet, it's a whole other world and dimension, and although a lot of you probably already watch it. So you've had some wonderful voice actors and actresses on the show beyond Eden Share. You have Jenny Slate as Ponyhead, and Alan Tudyk and Michael C. Hall. How much input do you have on the choices, which are wonderful? And do you have any stories about their recordings or how they shaped their characters?
I mean, I got to pick everybody, so that was very exciting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Lovely.
But I've worked very closely. Disney has a really wonderful group, Sarah and Rachel, who, I work with directly, and they make suggestions for actors, and we do a weekly meeting, and, oh, you've got this new character coming up, tell me about them, and they'll get me auditions, and it's really fun. They have great ideas. I believe that Eden was an idea of Sarah's, and she's been awesome.
And do they ever do any improv inside their recordings?
Yeah, especially the actors that like to do that, like Alan, and we just had this episode, Ludo in the Wild, that was completely improv by Alan. There was no dialogue in it originally, and we were just like, we'll play the animatic and just run over it, and, he came up with some awesome stuff.
So I've heard that you use your own life as inspiration for Star in some ways, and one of the things that strikes me in all your interviews is how optimistic and positive you are, which Star is also. Can you talk about working to bring that spirit to young kids who watch your show? And also, you don't really sugarcoat what it's like to kind of navigate being a kid. So how do you make that balance?
Sorry, I'm trying to follow the question. So what was the first part?
So the first part is, it's you a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of me in Star, I think. And I really like Star as a character because I feel like she doesn't care what other people think, which can get her into trouble, but also makes her really fun. And she's definitely a very flawed character, which nobody had any issue with letting her be that way, which makes me happy because I know that's been an issue with a lot of female characters in the past. But
great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gina Shay. Oh, you can applaud her because she's awesome. Gina Shay is the producer of the new DreamWorks feature Trolls, which is being released on November 4th. So you've been a producer in animation for a while, and you found a great home at DreamWorks because you've done a lot of Shrek stuff, and I hear you have a story about how you broke into the industry. Do tell.
Okay, so this is kind of a story that has a little bit to do with, my advice, what my advice would be for women breaking in also. So I went to art school in Brooklyn, and I got a job as a PA on a movie called Cool World, and I worked my way up through into production manager role on that movie because animation takes forever. And after the movie, it was there wasn't any more animation around. It was really hard to get a job. So I sent my resume everywhere. I wanted so badly to work at Skellington. There were so many things I wanted to do. And I finally got a phone call from a producer at Disney named Bonnie Arnold. You saw it there. And so I went to meet with Bonnie, and she said, this is a movie up north. It's by this new company called Pixar. I want you to go meet with John Lasseter. So I said, okay, great. And the interview went really well, and it came down to 2 people. And so the night before the interview, I'm like, okay, I know what I'm going to say in the interview, but I have no idea what I'm going to wear. I am so poor. I'm living off of my vegetable garden in Echo Park. And so my friends told me, just go to Marshall's and spend $20 and get a suit. And so I went to get the suit, and it was horrible. I did not feel like myself. So, and I was sewing back then. I was making puppets. I was doing all these other things, these creative things. And so I said, all right, I am going to make a Be Myself Pixar interview jumpsuit. And so I made... And so I flew up there, and I met with John Lasseter. I did not get the job, but I would say it wasn't because of the jumpsuit. It was because I did not have the technical knowledge, and they hired the better person for it. But in the end, I ended up producing a lot of films, and then, when I came back to Echo Park, I got hired by a friend of mine named Mike Mitchell to make some puppets for his TV show. And that got me through the next 6 months of Rent. And then I was able to get onto another animation show and kind of work my way up. But then flash forward 15 years, and Mike Mitchell directed the Shrek movie I worked on with him. And then Flash forward 5 years later, I'm hiring him to do Trolls with me. And flash forward, 3 years after that, and we're both working for Bonnie Arnold. So things have a weird way of coming around, but my advice is just be yourself and have confidence. It's all about the confidence, and just do what you do best, because you cannot change yourself.
That's great advice, and it comes through a little bit, and I just want to briefly mention that Princess Poppy and Princess Fiona have something in common, and that is that their body is not a Barbie doll body. It's a little bit more diverse in terms of representation of women, and I want you to talk a little bit about your making sure that Poppy had that shape.
Yes, it was really important for us.
For Trolls.
Yeah. We felt like it was our responsibility in Trolls to break all the princess rules in the book. And so we kept the characters really round and real, and they're characters in all shapes and sizes. And I have an 11-year-old daughter. She was 7 when I started working on this movie. And she has a super powerful mind, and I want so badly for her to use it for her imagination rather than obsessing in the mirror, because, these girls are going to change the world. All girls are beautiful. Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you. Lauren Montgomery. So as you probably know, she's the co-executive producer of Voltron Legendary Defender, which got incredibly well received when it was released. As I want you to talk a little bit about Pidge, because some people don't know there are a variety of different characters. It's based on another show that was a while back, and talk a little bit about what happened with that character and how you played a part in that.
Sure. So, spoiler alert, anyone who hasn't watched the show. There is a character on the show. Her name is Pidge. She is a girl. She starts off masquerading as a boy. It's ruined for you. I'm sorry. But she was from the original show, which was back in the 80s when I was a very young kid. It was, Pidge was a boy, and pretty much all the pilots were a boy. Eventually, another pilot came in. It was a girl. There was 1 girl, 4 boys, and that was kind of the thing. When it came time for us to start thinking about this show, I wanted to bring another female into the team because, hey, we can't just keep making shows about guys. I mean, well, there's plenty. You guys are represented. Good for you. We're going to represent some girls. So literally before I'd even been officially hired on the show, we were talking about it. Joaquin was in talks, and I was like, Joaquin, can we make Pidge a girl? And he was like, yeah, I don't see why not. I'm like, okay. But I was seriously so scared. Like, I've been working in action-adventure animation so long where my gender has always been looked at as kind of like not a good thing. They don't sell toys. And literally the words like she has to be effable has been uttered, which is not something that I like to really put out there for the young girls. So I was very afraid. I was very afraid going into a show that is supposed to be action-adventure geared towards boys to sell toys that, my wish for Pidge to be a girl was just going to get axed. So I'm talking to Joaquin, and I'm like, can we just not tell them? Can she just be a girl, but we won't tell them. We won't tell them. They won't know until it's in the show. And it's like, she's a girl. Surprise, DreamWorks. Yeah, you didn't know. But, of course, Joaquin's like, no, we kind of have to tell them. You can't do that. So, we're in our meetings, we're pitching the show, it's getting developed, and, come out and Pidge is actually a girl, and I'm waiting for like we can't do that, but like it didn't happen, and DreamWorks was just like, cool, and, and what else? And it was just fine, and like that's one of the greatest things about, working with DreamWorks on this project is that they don't come from that area, they don't come from that kind of action-adventure boy show typical place where everything's kind of so set in that pattern of all guys sell toys to boys. Like they just come from a place where they want diversity and they want different types of people, different shapes and different genders to be represented. So that's how Pidge became a girl. The end.
Very nice. So you've worked on a bunch of very strong fan favorite character shows like Wonder Woman, Legend of Korra, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and in a lot of creative capacities. What did you use from your experience in becoming a producer and showrunner for Voltron?
Just everything, everything that you do in your job, you learn a little something from. Obviously, when we worked on Legend of Korra, it was a pretty intense task to make that show. Like, a lot of people kind of burned themselves out. It was a lot of work. And so when we went into Voltron, we really wanted to kind of simplify the show down and make it a little easier and a little more sustainable. That was our pitch in all our meetings. This is going to be sustainable. People aren't going to die to make this show. And then we totally failed because people are dying to make the show. But that was what I tried to learn and then didn't learn because I made the same mistake. But really, yeah, just everything that you do, you learn a little bit of something from to take to the next job, whether it's like, sometimes it's something as minimal as don't put head nods in the animation because it almost, like 90% of the time, it looks really bad when it comes back, but you're stuck with it and someone's just sitting there going like this and you don't know, it looks weird. But, and then everything all the way up to, trying to cut back on lines on the characters, details, flowy cloth that creates more animation that'll just gonna overtask an animation team overseas. There's just all sorts of things, but
and
rack up the knowledge.
You just announced about half an hour ago that there's a second season for Voltron.
Yeah.
Which is great news. And we have actually, through the courtesy of DreamWorks, we have Voltron posters in the back. When you walk out, you can get one, which might come in handy because Lauren and the crew from Voltron they're having a special signing in the sales pavilion, and you might want to go down there and get her to sign your poster. It's Friday morning at 10:30 to noon at the Autograph Alley in AA19. So you have your poster to have signed by her today. That's what we got for you.
Come on by.
Come on by. Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
So Stevie Wermers-Skelton is an Emmy Award-winning writer-director of Prep and Landing, which I love that. I love Prep and Landing so much. And she's going to be doing a Frozen holiday special that's coming in 2017. So Prep and Landing has such a great afterlife and has such a huge fan following. What line or sequence have you had a hand in that you like, that keeps coming back and makes you like, really gives you a great kick, like really keeps you excited and you like think back on and really enjoy?
Oh, there's just so many good fun experiences on that show. It was one of the funnest things I've ever worked on in my career. I think I've been at Disney for forever, and that was probably like one of the highlights of my career since I've been there, like I said. But there were so many, but one of the things that sticks out, of course, was, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the show, but in the original Prep and Landing, there's a sequence where Santa takes off. It's like a launch control, like a mission control, he takes off to go deliver presents to children. And there's the reindeer, and they're sort of the engines of the rocket ship, which is going to take Santa out. And there's little elves that come and help and prepare them, and one of them is a little rev-up elf that says, they say, start the engines, and he comes down and he goes, yeah, like that. And I did, Mark knows, and I did that in the scratch, and it turns out we showed it repeatedly in storyboard reels, and John Lasseter saw it, and we were going to replace my voice.
But no.
So that voice that's in there, yeah, is me. So.
Oh, that's great! Can you talk a little bit about McGee and your influence on that character as a woman that was involved in building the story of Prep and Landing?
Sure. Actually, McGee's the North Pole Christmas Eve Command Center Coordinator, NPCC for short. And she was actually my directing partner, Kevin Dieters, and I don't know if Kevin's here. No, Kevin. but we like to create characters that are based on real life people that we know. I mean, that's the best way. You always know these people in your life and who they are. And our associate producer, Jenny McGee Cook, and our producer, Dorothy McKim, are pretty much, McGee is an amalgam of those two people. So we actually it looks like Dorothy, our producer Dorothy, with a haircut. McGee has the same haircut as Dorothy does, and she has the personality of Jenny, our associate producer. Very type A, always needs a lot of caffeine, wants to get things done right now, all the time. But that's who it was based on. And I'm a little bit like that too.
Which
so,
a lot of women in business are having to be type A, at least
have to be
muster the
so,
type A
yes.
archetype inside ourselves. So I enjoy that. And can you talk a little bit about your favorite thing you've ever done?
At Disney, right?
Yes.
Okay, that narrows it down.
At Disney.
That could be, that
yes.
could be going.
No, not in your life and all of the things you've ever done. Specifically in your jobs.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the chance to make my student film from CalArts at Disney, and that was The Ballad of Nefcy. I don't know how familiar you guys are with that, but that film was my second year student film when I was at CalArts in 1994, a long time ago, and I always wished, even when I was making I wish I could have this made by Disney animators, that'd be so great. But of course I never really thought that would happen. And it wasn't until 2006 when John Lasseter and Disney bought Pixar, and John became our boss. John Lasseter became our boss, and he wanted to bring the Disney Shorts program back. And they said, we're open to any and all ideas. Bring your shorts ideas. So I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is something I've been thinking about for 15 years. I can't pass this up. I will regret this for the rest of my life if I don't present this. So I did, and it got made into a short. In 2011, it was in front of Winnie the Pooh, and then I had a plush doll made, which was really awesome. So
that's when you know you've made it.
I know.
There's a plush doll.
And one of those little animation things too. That was really cool. So.
All right, and then you are going to be doing a special that she actually checked with Disney about what she could tell us, and she has 4 things she can reveal about this new special that's going to be coming up.
Yes, it's a Frozen Holiday Special. We don't have the title quite yet. It's coming out in 2017, next Christmas. Assuming it'll be on ABC network television. The original cast is returning. So all your favorite characters are going to be there. It's I might actually have more than 4, so they get bonuses there. It's an Olaf-based story, and we have 4 new songs in it. So, yeah,
very exciting.
It's a musical. It's my first musical, so it's been really exciting. So
that's wonderful. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Lauren Faust. Emmy Award winner for Foster Home for Imaginary Friends, and creator, writer, developer of My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, and a bunch of other stuff, as you well know. So what do you bring as a female creative? What did you bring to Friendship is Magic? Are there considerations as you build story, both in that experience and just in general as in your work?
As a woman, you mean?
Yes.
Well, for me, I feel like I bring perspective. It's for me, I'm very passionate not just about including women creatives in the animation field, but also telling the stories of women and girls, characters who are women and girls, and content that's targeted at women and girls. And if it gets other people, that's awesome too. But I feel like what I really bring to the table is an honest perspective of what girls are like, what they want. Sometimes I feel like, stories about girls that aren't necessarily specifically from a female mind, or maybe a little bit voyeuristic. They're a little bit like, I know women and I know girls, and this is what I guess that they feel. But when you're telling the story of girls from a woman's perspective, and when your writers or your storyboard artists are also women, it brings a subtlety to it that just makes it a little bit more genuine, I feel. And one of the things that was so wonderful about My Little Pony in particular was that we had a cast of 6 girls, so I could demonstrate a diversity in what it is like to be a girl. There's lots of different ways to be a girl. Usually in a show you get 1, if you're lucky, 2 girls, and half of the time, you've got the perky cute one and the dark goth one, and there's really not, you don't get to see more. And having 6 characters, I could explore lots of different personality types, and no one character had the pressure of being perfect or being like some sort of a example of everything that's okay to say about a girl. All of my characters could be flawed, because if one character had one particular flaw, another character made up for that, and because they were flawed, they could be funny, and they could be fun, and they could be interesting. So it's, for me, it's just being able to bring that perspective and that passion for wanting to do it right is what I try to bring to the table.
And as a woman in the industry, how do you stay true to your vision? We talked a little bit about some of the ways that you made choices specific to that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
The biggest thing for me to try to stay true to my vision is making sure that I'm in a place that gives me support. I want to work for people who want to work for me or work with me. I want to work for people who like what I do and want me to do what I do. And it's very important to me to work at a studio and work with producers who want content for girls, because there's lots of people who just don't, or they change their mind halfway through and say, can you make it gender neutral? Or can you change, you have a story about 2 girls, can you make one of them a boy? Which you can do sometimes, but that's what I really try to get in order to keep my vision, especially one that I think is great for girls, is just to get the support that I need in order to do that.
And you had a concrete example of that.
Of place where I got support?
Yeah.
Well, what's really fascinating is that, I worked at Cartoon Network for a really long time, and Powerpuff Girls was a big success, and when my husband and I were finished with that show, we both kind of thought, okay, we can make shows for girls now. We proved that a show about girls can be successful. And for some reason, they decided they didn't want more girl shows at that time. And I pitched a bunch, and they said, can you make it for boys? Can you make it for boys? Or they approve it and then change their mind. They don't want girl stuff anymore, and it would be gone. So for me, the breakthrough was going to Hasbro. They were like, we have a toy. It's for girls. Nobody thinks a boy would ever like this. So we're not.
And then.
Yeah, right? So we don't need to make it for boys. And I was like, all right, well, this is the perfect platform for me to make something purely, entirely targeted and sincerely at girls. And, lo and behold, boys liked it too.
Which I think is a really important statement about
Yes.
women creating content that maybe, so often people are gearing content to men, and women are girls, boys. Boys are, we're all interested in it when it's about good character.
Yes.
Then that's all it has to be, is driven by good characterization.
Yes, and genuine character.
And three-dimensional characters.
Yeah, and the genuineness behind it, because like I said before, when you're doing it from sort of like an observational behind the mirror sort of way, going, well, girls like shopping and shoes and fashion and boys, so let's make the show about that, and then everybody wonders why boys don't want to watch it. And it's like, but when you make real characters with like real desires and real goals and real flaws, you'll find that even boys can relate to them. And I love having My Little Pony as an example of something that totally did that. And Powerpuff Girls too.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Katie Krentz. She is the Senior Director of Development at Cartoon Network, which is very cool. We love people in those kinds of positions that are women. So you actually, in your job, you shepherd projects from the very beginning to completion, from beginning to people seeing it. And what I want you to do is talk a little bit about how you're able to bring women, female characters, and bring female representation behind, the scenes as well, and how positive and powerful, inclusive messages in Steven Universe and Powerpuff Girls, how that all relates. Because we were talking about that, and you're like, it all is one thing. So talk a little bit about that.
That was like a 4-part question.
I know. She took a picture of it because she was like, "Ooh, I know how to answer that."
I think it's easy to make shows and to develop shows that have female characters because both men and women are actually coming in with those pitches. It's not just girls that are coming in to pitch compelling female protagonists. Guys are too. And I think that's something that's really special, is that everybody now wants to tell those stories, and that's super cool. I think, in terms of, you kind of mentioned Powerpuff and Steven with inclusion and all of that. I mean, I think if all of the creators of those shows and also all of the board artists, and many of those are women, that they would say that they're just trying to, let women and men know that it's okay for girls to be strong. It's okay for girls to be weird. It's okay for them to be different. If you want to be type A, that's cool. If you want to be a Pearl on Steven, that's cool. I think, I think Cartoon Network is doing a really nice job right now of showing the kind of full spectrum of the kind of girls that you want to be, and that it's okay to be weird, and that we don't need to just tell stories that are about love, that it can just be about friendship and supporting one another, and also enjoying your power. If you are, that you are all strong, and that enjoy it. Yeah.
Those are good messages.
Yeah.
As a woman in animation, how do you use your very interesting background and education in solving challenges from the beginning to release of your projects? For women coming into the industry, what skill set did you learn you needed from your background? We'll talk a little bit about where you come from, what your background is, and what advice would you give based on that?
Sure. I'm from rural Indiana, from like the cornfields, and came from a super artsy family. We were always painting and drawing, and never really knew that animation could be a job that a girl could have in the late 80s, early 90s. But came to LA and was working at Family Guy in production, was a storyboard PA, backup assistant to Seth MacFarlane, and then went over to a studio to 20th Century Fox TV and actually worked in primetime development, production, and current over there. So I learned, how to actually produce shows. And then I got a call from some fabulous people over at Cartoon Network about 5 years ago to help run the shorts program over there. So, I've worked in production at a studio and a network in both primetime and kids animation. So gotten kind of a nice, well-rounded experience from that. But I think throughout all of that, I can say for any of you that want to break into animation, the more specific you can be, the better we can help you. If you just say, I want to work in animation, that's a very big blanket statement, and it could mean a lot of things, right? So I think if you say, I want to be a storyboard revisionist on a kid's show, that is, there's a very clear path for that. And we, and all of us, with our advice, we can give you, I think, more tailored advice on how to better achieve that. So I think, from my skill set, I found when I was going through things, the vaguer that I was, it was hard for people to help me, but when I got more specific with that, people could help me. So, yeah.
And so now where you are now, what kind of from all of that experience are you surprised that you needed, that like you didn't realize was like a really very strong, a big benefit to you?
It helps to know how to make a good cup of coffee.
A lot of cups of coffee.
In your career, it's funny, just like knowing how to work a coffee machine, that'll take you far. But I think then, as you get into your career, whether you're on a technical side or a creative side, you're working on a show as an executive or an employee, I think, again, kind of getting back to being specific, having a strong opinion on whatever it is you're working on, I think is really important. Being able to, I think in my current job, that was, something right away that my bosses were amazing about, of just like, what do you think? And not just what do you think one time a day, but what do you think basically every minute of every hour that we're working on projects? And I think that for me as a woman, sometimes in other jobs where I was maybe in the shadows or kind of letting other people speak, that's so powerful to be able to have an opinion at every moment about something. So, yeah.
And to make sure you say it.
Yes.
As well.
Speak.
That's great. Yeah. I love that. I love hearing it. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
so we are ending with Brooke Keesling. She's the Director of Animation Talent Development at Disney TV Animation, but she's also the professor of Character Animation at Cal Arts. Yes, so she's all over the place helping shepherd new talent. So what do you think are the most important ways a woman wanting to enter the field should prepare and create the best chance for being hired at Disney or anywhere in this industry?
Draw, and then draw a little more, and then do some drawing. Just show your passion, post your stuff on Tumblr, make online comics. I spend so much time online looking at your guys' artwork. I see faces in this crowd. I've done some of your portfolio reviews, so coming to things like this, going to things like CTN, joining Women in Animation, going to the networking things, but focus on just making things. And sometimes I see with my students, they're worried about, they want to make what's being made already. They want to kind of imitate that, and I always encourage them, like, no, you're in school, this is the time for you to do your voice, and you might get pressure from some of your instructors. I remember Penn Ward was one of my students when I taught a high school animation program called CISA that happens at Cal Arts, and then he went to Cal Arts, and some of his teachers just were like, you're not drawing right, because nothing really on TV looked like that yet, and then so it takes those voices, and I would say actually same with Alex Hirsch. Some of the things that he was doing while he was in school were so different than what the other students were doing. So that's what, having, it's like what Katie was saying, it's having a point of view. It's the same thing when you watch Chopped on the Food Network or Project Runway. It's like, we want your point of view. We don't want necessarily what we already have. The animation industry wants the next thing all the time. Now, with that said, I would also say that if you're an artist and you want to work in animation, you can work on the design side or on the story side. And I would say that if you can show a range, so you're not just the person who draws, mermaids all the time. Like, I love seeing mermaids, but also show me that you could draw something else. So when I look through portfolios, I always give the advice, like, show a range. If you can do a range of styles and tell a range of different stories, you will be able to work for a long time. Another bit of advice is try to get an internship. If you applied to Disney, we have a summer internship that we post in every February, and I brought postcards with our website on it. You can find me afterwards in the hall, and I'll give you one. But so if you apply for internships, that's a way to kind of like network and learn more about the industry from the inside. And if you don't get an internship at a big studio, also apply to smaller studios. I think a lot of us came up through smaller studios, and there's a lot you can learn at every level. And sometimes, wearing all those different hats at a smaller studio helps you learn what you really want to focus on in your career. I could go on. Well,
oh, you've got a little more time. Please do go on. You've got a little more time. Can you talk about the atmosphere at Disney TV that fosters successful women in various aspects of creative and management positions? I have a lot of friends that work inside Disney, so I mean, that's not. I think we really have a lot of very powerfully, wonderfully supportive networks and studios represented here. So I want to say, DreamWorks is amazing, and Cartoon Network is really trying to make a difference. And, there are all of these, Nickelodeon is really wanting to be 50-50. there are lots of amazing, but just talk
Yeah,
a bit
when I
from your
was-
perspective.
When I was watching the numbers up there, I just felt like, I'm no mathematician, but I feel like we have a lot more women doing creative things at Disney and other studios also that I've worked at. I think the atmosphere at Disney is very positive. It's very dynamic right now. We have 18 plus shows in production. We do Disney Junior shows and XD shows. We do original shows. We do heritage-based shows. We have so much going on, and we need all those different voices. Elena of Avalar is the first Latina princess.
Coming out soon.
She's premiering tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we need all of these different voices. We have our internship. We also have an internal mentorship program that we just launched. So we really want to bring in the talent that we want to see, and that's a big part of what I do, but we also want to kind of grow and foster the talent internally, so it's a pretty amazing place to work.
And I think if you are a woman who wants to work in animation industry in whatever capacity, all of these different studios and networks that are represented here have something different to offer for women they're fostering women in different and really powerful ways. So it's about what kind of an atmosphere you want to be in, and they're really good, all of them in very different, very specific ways. So one of the things that's really helpful if you're looking to get into the industry is talk to people inside the different studios that are women, that have experience inside that environment, because they're going to be good for different people for different reasons, and they're all good in different ways.
I want you guys to know that we recruiters are on your side. There's artists that I've championed for. It's taken me quite a few years, like, no, believe in this person. I'll put an artist in front of one of our crews, and it's so satisfying to me when that person finally gets hired, but we're on your side. We want you to succeed. So I'm doing portfolio reviews on Saturday again here, and would love to see any of you there.
Well, thank you all very much. Please applaud our wonderful, amazing collection of women. Thank you very much for being a part of this panel and for making the difference for so many women coming into the industry.